Hey there, it's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have a Bitcoin / cryptocurrency market update for September the 27th. Before I jump into the content, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and of course don't forget to check the description. There's a link there where you can join Patreon for just $7 a month, and that will give you access to more frequent videos. So the reason that I wanted to do this video today, we're obviously coming up to the end of the month, so there's about 3 days or so left in September, and the candle looks not so bad, right? Really, it doesn't look that bad. It's not all that bearish, it's not all that bullish, it's kind of an indecision candle right now. So I'm curious to see where the next couple of days go. I'm not going to worry too much about the monthly chart until it's actually closed, because this can look drastically different 3 days from now than what it looks today. But I do want to take a look at a weekly chart real quick. We can talk about it. So this is the weekly Bitcoin chart. On the bullish side, price is above the 19-week moving average. It did have a nice reaction off of it. It was a really good place for somebody who wanted to maybe scalp long, maybe even take a swing trade there. I don't know that there was enough structure for a swing trade, but certainly enough structure for at least a scalp down around that area. But right now, the bearish news on the weekly is that it did indeed break back down inside of what I've been calling the bear market box for a few years now. I'm going to go ahead and take this channel off of there just so that it's a little bit cleaner. And we can see that we're back down inside that bear market box. Now, we did not tiptoe back inside that box in 2020, right, after we broke out of it. And the only time we went back inside that box in 2019 was at the start of the major sell-off, right? So it entered it in September of 2019, had the little dead cat bounce back up to around 10K, and then, fell all the way down to 6,400. Broke out of the box again over here in January, had the false pump up to around 10K, and then the huge sell-off down to around 3,800, okay? So this breakout of this box and then tucking back down inside of it like that, that is rather bearish, especially when you consider what it's done the last few times it's broke out like that. If we take a look back in September of 2017, because some people are trying to compare this to September 2017, saying in the third quarter there was a big sell-off, and then Bitcoin had a huge run, and so did alts. I remember that. I was very caught off guard by it back then. It was my first year trading, and I fortunately wasn't shorting anything, but I had taken some profits on coins, so I do vividly remember that. But keep in mind that it never came anywhere near this bear market box. This is September of 2017 right here, right? It came back down. RSI was still well above 60 on that pullback, and then pushed up. We are at a totally different level of RSI here. Anything under 50 is generally considered fairly bearish, right? 50 is kind of the neutral level. But more importantly, we're back inside this box, and this box has been, a pretty good line in the sand. I mean, look at how perfect it was in that last bull run. Each time it came down to it, it would bounce right off of it. And same thing in 2020, it would come down to it and then bounce right off of it. So this is bearish news, okay? So that's kind of my weekly view is, hey, we're above the 19, so that's good. The 19 is starting to curl back up. That's good. But we're back inside that box. That's not so great, okay? Also, we're still under some key levels. If we put fibs on here from the top to the bottom of this move, we can see we came right up to that golden pocket around the 61.8 and started to pull back, okay? Also, if you're looking at just the last few weeks, obviously this is a low, lower high, lower low, so there is some bearish structure there. Again, on the larger time frame, if you zoomed out to a monthly, you'd say this was actually a high, a higher low, right? And we're still kind of consolidating. So it remains to be seen. I'm going to take a look at a 3-day chart. This is the 3-day chart. So a few things going on here. This yellow box is the complacency box that I drew up back in May, right? I thought price would come up to the box and then kind of go down from there. It would act as capitulation. Excuse me, not capitulation, complacency, and then move down. Okay, so price did move up to the box, paused a little bit, cut pretty deep into the box up to around 53K, and then has started to move back down. Obviously, on a 3-day chart, we did have this lower low, took out this low back here, followed by a lower high, followed by a lower low. So it's very conceivable that this is in fact putting in yet another lower low before more downside, right? That does look kind of sketchy there. If we look at the RSI, again, we fell back inside this bear market box. That's not good. That's pretty bad. All right. However, if you want a saving grace for the bulls, in September of 2020, on the 3-day chart, it also fell back inside the box and stopped right around this 46 level before continuing its bull run. Consolidated a bit and then continued to move up. So we are around that same level, right? Still some hope left for bulls, but it's not looking great. All right, I'm going to take this off and this off just so it's a little cleaner. To me, again, this looks like this is probably the top back here of the market cycle. This probably is complacency and it probably is going lower. Again, we already know on the fibs, that's the golden pocket area. If we were to draw some fib extensions from the top to the low, that swing high, give target down around 17K, makes sense, right? So I could see something like that happening. However, I want to be very clear. There's things about this market cycle that are different from every market cycle in Bitcoin's history, and you should take them into consideration, right? Bitcoin does not normally retrace below its previous all-time high. Okay, even during its bear markets, it normally does not retrace below the previous all-time high. So for this to move back down to 16K or 10K or 12K or any of those numbers that I view as possible, it would have to do something that it normally doesn't do. Keep that in mind, right? It's not always the smartest play betting, for something to happen that's never happened before. But that being said, on the flip side, we do know that we do have, gaps that are sitting down. This is a Coinbase chart. We do have this big ledge of support down around 10 or 11K. That's on the all-time history for Coinbase. If we're looking at the 2018 bottom through now, we've got that ledge that's sitting down around, again, 10 or 11K, same point of control. If we're looking at just, from March of 2020 after capitulation to the point now, we've got that ledge sitting down around 10K, right? And all this is basically open air. So if Bitcoin were to lose this level around 28K, there's really no meaningful support all the way down to here. All right. So that's something to keep in mind. Right now we're way up here. So we don't have to worry about this too much until it first takes out all of these levels. Okay. There's a lot of trading action that's got to be cut through to get down here. But I'm just saying that's a possibility to keep in the back of your mind. All right. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on the 3-day chart. If we take a look at a daily chart, pull that up real quick. All right, so this chart's fairly messy. Let me kind of walk through what's going on here. So get rid of this. This was a trend line that I was hoping was going to play out. Didn't play out, but that's the way it works sometimes. So this red box was kind of our zone back here from early 2021. We consolidated in that same zone from May all the way until we broke out back in July/August. We came down, and so far all we've really done is retest that zone. Okay, so it's entirely possible if we were to put bullish looking Fibonacci levels on here, right? It's entirely possible that what this is actually doing is just retracing from this big move up, and that it's going to continue in that direction, that you end up with something like this. That is entirely possible. And if you drew some Fibonacci extensions on there, it would give you a target up around 60, right around 63K, right? Which would basically be right at the old all-time high, right up in that area, right? So it could be that this ends up being a double top. Very possible. And when you think about Bitcoin's market cycles, they're generally about 4 years. They generally end around November, December, right? Could be that this thing really does kind of stretch out and top again in November, December, and then the bear market kicks off. That's totally possible, all right? But some things to watch for on this daily chart. We've got a 50 and a 200-day moving average. They had a death cross back here. I find these things hilarious because a lot of times they're actually the exact opposite of what you would think. Supposedly this was super bearish, but they lag. Instead, it's actually one of the best places that you could have got long through this period. Over here, you have this golden cross, which is supposedly super bullish, but look what you have, this immediate move down after that. Keep that in mind. Those are very meh, in my opinion. I don't find them to be reliable at all. But what I do find to be reliable is the 50 moving average and the 200 moving average individually, right? So for example, in a bull market, you'll often retest that 50 like back here, and back here, right, and get those big moves off of it. When you fall underneath it, it often flips bearish and is a good place to start looking for short positions or at least exiting longs, like through here, and then boom, the big collapse. All right, we are underneath that, and it is starting to flatten out, which isn't great. The 200-day moving average is even more important. And again, we broke through that, okay? And so far, we haven't been able to reclaim it, and it's now starting to curl down. 200-day moving averages are not supposed to curl down in a bull market, right? That's a sign of a bear market, a downward sloping 200 moving average. So some things to definitely be mindful of. I find this to be a very uncertain area on this chart. I really feel like it could go either way, but I'm certainly leaning more to the bearish side than the bull side. All right, and that's mainly because we do have bearish structure on the daily chart. We've got bearish structure on the 3-day chart. We've got bearish structure on the weekly chart. Monthly chart, so far it hasn't flipped bear yet. Okay, right now it's still a question mark. It's not really bullish, but it's more of a question mark. If we can somehow manage to reclaim these levels, that would be a big feather in the bull's caps. Okay, first level that really, they need to take out if you're a bull. You want to see it close above this midpoint here, because then this could end up being a double bottom, right? That's really what you want to see, is a close above this level around 45K. You don't have to wait for a close up here or back here. If it takes out this level and closes above it, it's a pretty good sign. Now, that being said, let's take a look at the CME chart. All right, so here's the CME. I'm going to remove some of these things. We don't need them on here. Obviously, we did have a head and shoulders, right? That was confirmed with volume, had the high sell volume here, high sell volume over here as well. It did come up for a bearish retest of the neckline and then had a reaction off of that to move down. So that's bearish in nature, okay? But some things about this chart to notice. This is a daily chart. The 50 is still pointed up. The 200 daily is still pointed up. And right now it's basically sitting right around the 200 day. So if the CME is driving this market, and I really don't know if it is or not, but I suspect it might be, if the CME is driving this market, these are the levels I want to pay more attention to than the daily levels on Coinbase, okay? And for example, if you take a look at this, really think about what happened, right? In 2019, when it was able to take out the 200 daily, that's when that big move to 14K hit. Came down, retested the 200 daily, had the big 30-40% pump off of it. When it lost it, kind of chopped around sideways, regained it here. So this wasn't, this wasn't great, because you would expect it to continue moving up and it didn't. But at least over here it did give a good entry for a short right there, and then the dump, right? Again, broke through it here, reclaimed it, retested as support, and then the big move up. So here, retested it, big bounce off of it. I really think this 200 on the CME is worth paying attention to. I think it's a critical level. And again, it is curling up right now. So that's worth noting. It's not curling down like the Coinbase chart. If you pull this all the way over, you can also see, I don't know why this is way back here. You can also see the same thing, right? It's retesting the same zone, which should not be a surprise. So, right now, I think bears have the upper hand if I have to, give a call on it. But I really think that this is one of those markets right now where a lot can happen. A lot can happen for sure. Video's not awful long. It's a little long. Take a look at the total market cap real quick. So total market cap. Ooh, okay. I hadn't really looked at this lately. It has double topped. It's not confirmed yet, but that is certainly a double top, right? Here's your previous close, came up, retested it, rejected, and a move down. Not really what I was hoping to see, to be totally frank, but all right, so yeah, it could be. It could be that that's how that plays out. Look at this. Yikes. Could be that we get boom, 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 right? And again, really, all through here is the level that you would expect this to move back down to, but it would require taking out this all-time high back here, which would be a little bit unusual. Let's take a look at Where's the 200 daily on that? All right, so the 200 daily on total market cap, we're kind of right on top of it, right? So again, some hope for the bulls there. I just think it's too early to say. You know, I've always leaned bear the last few years, and I try to keep that in mind when I'm making these videos. Like, you know, don't let that influence me too much like I did last year. So I try to, you know, at least provide some type of, hey, you know, this might be bullish type of stuff. And I do think that it's got a chance of being bullish still. You know, I find it unusual that the market cycle would be, you know, different this time, would be shorter versus longer. I find it unusual that it would have to take out that all-time high to get down to those levels, right? But you have to remember that the time we're in is very unusual, right? We had the COVID stuff going on last year. We had all the money printing. We had this completely parabolic run in stocks, and now they're looking like they're trying to cool off some. There's a lot of things going on, and Bitcoin has never existed in a bear market. I've talked about this a lot in the past. Bitcoin has always existed in a pretty healthy bull market globally. So it could be that the first time it takes out its previous all-time high happens to be because the stock market is also in a bear market, and that's what sends it so low. If we're taking a look at the total market cap, and this is the total market cap as far back as TradingView goes, which is back around 2014, right? Let me just delete everything real quick. We can see that there's a huge ledge down around this 270 billion area, right? All the way up to about 325 billion. And again, it's just kind of representing what I already showed you with the horizontal line, that you've got all this area back here that hasn't been retested. And it wouldn't be all that shocking to retest that. There's a pretty big gap, volume gap, all through this area. So basically, if it loses this area up here, there's not a whole lot to stop it from going all the way down there, okay? Maybe you get some bids in here, but what I would expect, if this is a bear market, what I would expect is if there are buyers here, they're probably gonna be enough to kind of push it up, maybe retest this old level here, and then eventually it makes its way down. So, you know, that's kind of long picture, like big picture type of stuff. It's not all that important for day-to-day trading, but it is something to be mindful of. This absolutely could be a double top on a much larger time frame. Look at this. So there's your monthly chart, okay? And if you look at this, this is a log chart just so that we can kind of see a little easier here. This was very, very parabolic. You don't really see any double tops through here, okay? But watch this. This right here, if you chop this off right here, you just said, I'm gonna chop that off. Oh, it's not gonna let me, okay. This could have been, this would have looked like a double top, and then instead of going down, it just continued up, right? So you just gotta be a little careful about getting too gung-ho and trying to, you know, front run markets. Yes, this candle is red right now, but there's 3 days left. If this candle closes green, it wouldn't look all that different from back here, okay? And then maybe we do have a whole another leg to go. I personally hope we do. I prefer that this bull market is not over, right? Everybody knows I was late to join the party because I was worried about COVID and everything else. So no, I would much rather this continue going up. But right now, you know, this obviously, if you're looking at a long chart, this is up around that 1.618 extension. You know, it kind of makes sense that it might be topping there. It's up around the 3.618 on the total, came back down to the 1.618 and bounced on the non-log chart. So yeah, I mean, just too early to say, okay? Too early to say. I guess the one last thing I'll mention in this video, it's probably worth mentioning. I know the news broke about China banning crypto trading. If anything, I would say that the way the market reacted to that is bullish, right? I know that people say it's bearish news, and it certainly isn't positive news, but you know, if the market was super weak and news came out like that, it would easily send it tumbling, maybe 20, 30, 40%. And instead, it sent it tumbling about 10%. So it does speak, you know, to the bull side that people were saying, I'm going to step up and I'm going to buy into this quote unquote weakness, right? That is bullish. So it's interesting. But overall, I lean bear, no shot, no surprise. As the saying goes, I'm prepared for the worst, but I'm hoping for the best. All right. All that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It'll probably be the last one I do, maybe for the next week or two, and hopefully get some value out of this. If you haven't already, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and make sure to join that Patreon. If we can actually grow that thing and get to a pretty substantial number of people in there, it would allow me to do a lot more videos. It would allow me to do a lot more software too, which is what I really want to do. Is I want to start cranking out some software for people. That's what my background is in software. But the way it stands now, anytime I do software, I have to charge for it, like $1,000 per license, so that I can justify the time and the expense of creating it. But if I had 1,000 or 2,000 people in the Patreon, basically almost be like a crowdsourced type of deal. So if you haven't done that, give it some thought. If you've ever benefited from anything I've done on this channel or any of these videos, think about throwing some money back into that Patreon, and let's see if we can't do something fun with it. All right, this is James with Crypto Common Sense, reminding you that I am some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, which means that nothing in the video is financial advice. You should always go out and do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor for making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, or precious metals. And last but not least, please remember to trade safe.